This is Jonathan Ferguson, the Keeper of Firearms and Artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, which houses a collection of thousands of iconic weapons from throughout history. And I'm your host, Dave Jewett, and I'm afraid to say that you've been targeted for termination, and if you want to be in with a shot of taking down the T-800, well, you'd better watch Jonathan and I break down the weapons of the original Terminator.
The 45 Longslide with laser sighting. We don't have that, but we do have the AMT Hardballer. And for those of you who didn't know, yes, there was a battery pack and some wires running down the sleeve of Arnold's jacket. The Valmet M82 bullpup setup. This is just that gun. This was a real gun, or configuration of one. And all they've done is add this sci-fi scope to it and left the magazine off.
You can watch a longer director's cut edition of this episode over on Patreon, and over there you'll also be able to get early access to the upcoming Metal Gear Solid 3 episode.
This reload is exhilarating, I think he just said.
This reload time is exhilarating.
Wow, this is some premium tier nonsense you're showing me here.
That's Metal Gear Solid. This August you can get 50% off our Patreon memberships with code SUMMER, meaning you can watch the director's cut of this episode, 25 other extended episodes, and get early access to our upcoming Metal Gear Solid 3 episode, all for half price. And for the Terminator 2 lovers out there, fear not, as we'll be back with T2 in an upcoming episode. But without further ado, I'll throw it over to Jonathan.
What day is it? The date?
12th May, Thursday.
What year?
Every year?
Sorry. I wondered when today's Hot Fuzz reference would pop up.
It doesn't even make sense, but I said it anyway. Yeah, Smith & Wesson revolver, standard police revolver of the era. I think it's correct for LAPD.
Model 15.
Right, I have just checked, and yes, the LAPD of this era absolutely did use specifically the Model 15 38 Special revolver. So I don't know if that's... James Cameron claims to have not known anything about guns when he made this film. I suspect that's not true, because not only has he got an appropriate firearm, but it's a revolver and it's the correct model for the LAPD. So unless he got actual cops to do filming, which I don't think he did, that's yeah, I think he did know what he was doing there. Right, the Ithaca 37. I don't know if I've made this connection before, and if I haven't, I'm very silly. This is the same shotgun that Michael Biehn, in another James Cameron movie, likes to keep handy for close encounters. And also sawn off.
I'd like to keep this handy for close encounters.
Yeah, so I guess it's a James Cameron. The alien's appearance is a reference to this, sort of. And it's a perfectly appropriate thing to choose for both purposes. Lots of them around. Mid-80s, so Vietnam not long ago. This is still a current weapon at this time. And it's a pump action 12 gauge, Can't go wrong with that. I've always thought, this falls into a bit of a trope, I suspect. The shotgun is this super powerful weapon, therefore it knocks a T-800 down. Don't see why it would. Yeah, there's more mass of lead hitting him. He weighs, however much he weighs, a lot, and he has no pain receptors and no organs to damage. Why is it knocking him down at all? I don't think it should. He should just tank those shots, quite frankly. And I guess the idea as well is that weapons like this are still around in Reese's future. Of course they are. So he's intimately familiar with how they work. Don't get me wrong, if I had to face a Terminator, I'd rather have that than a pistol. But yeah, I don't think it's quite the effective weapon that's portrayed as being.
We should mention the sword off. Reverse sword off the stock rather than the barrel.
Yes, which is actually very sensible. On two counts. One, if you saw off the barrel, you're going to get reduced pressure, increased spread. And secondly, you're going to cut your magazine tube off, which A, reduces your capacity, and B, I don't know why I'm A and B and everything at the moment, but unless you cap it off and modify it to actually function as a magazine tube, you've got no magazine. So you've just turned your 6-shot, don't quote me, mag tube into a no-shot Probably because you've destroyed the magazine tube. So he's quite right to not cut the barrel and the mag tube down. If it was a standard length tube with a longer barrel, either way around, cutting the barrel down to where the tube stops would make sense for concealment, which is of course the main reason he's putting it under his coat, or cutting it down to fit under his coat. If you were just cutting down a shotgun for effective use, it's the other way around. You want to keep the stock for decent aiming and cut the barrel down. But then you do have the issue. This is where the side-by-side as a sawn-off kind of works well.
You can't do that.
Here is the 12-gauge autoloader, specifically the SPAS-12. An early appearance for this thing. I haven't checked IMFDB, but first time I ever saw a SPAS-12 would have been the Terminator. We only one of ours has that amusing elbow crook device, which is kind of questionable in its utility, but hooks around the back of the arm for bracing it in for sort of, I guess, assault fire. I don't know. Switchable from pump to semi. So this is currently set up semi-auto. Renamed the sporting purpose automatic shotgun in order to be importable to the US. It's Franchi.
That's Italian.
Pretty iconic weapon that it's, in a way, it's like a bit like something like a Chris Vector, where the actual sort of law enforcement military use of this is slim, but it has tremendous appeal from its movie appearances.
You can go pump or auto.
Yeah, he says pump or auto. So that is, we have these markings on here, A and M, auto and manual. And when the pump grip is lined up at the bottom with A, I can open the bolt because it cycles itself. And we press this button on the bottom of the grip and we slide it down to M till it clicks in place. And then we can pump the bolt back and it will lock because it's empty, and he immediately removes the stock, and when he goes into the police station, he is just one-handing this thing. Now, one of many weapons that I can't one-hand that Arnold Schwarzenegger can, but it's extremely, especially without the stock, it's extremely front-heavy. His is loaded as well, so the man has a lot of grip strength and wrist strength and arm strength and core strength. It's just a hugely impressive-looking weapon. With the mag tube sticking out like that, the muzzle device that protrudes beyond that. It has a tremendous amount of presence, even the big chunky pistol grip. It could have been designed for Arnold to use.
It's interesting because you mentioned, how much did James Cameron know about the weapons, or what the conversation was with the prop masters. They've managed to find a shotgun that during the production of Terminator 1 would have been, 4, maybe 5 years old? Pretty niche. They found one that could fire in semi-automatic, which then allowed their giant robot to fire it one-handed. There's obviously been a lot of thought put into that to fit it within the Terminator. I'm going to go into a cop station with an AR-18 and a SPAS-12 and be able to use each one of those one-handed. Someone's done some research back in 1980, whatever it was, when they were obviously spinning up production.
Yes, and Cameron wrote this, he didn't just direct it, and although not all the details of what ends up getting chosen are in the script, 12-gauge autoloader is. So at the very least, he would have gone for anything from a Browning Auto 5 onwards, really. There are other options for a one-handed gun, but yeah, I don't know, even just the sort of, not techno-babble, because it's correct, but the mention of the fact that it's pump or auto is kind of intriguing. So those of us in the audience who go, oh, this is cool hardware, what does that mean? Oh, what's that? Never seen that before. It's all quite recent kit that he's put in there. So my strong suspicion has always been that James Cameron, although he's avowedly anti-gun, actually, certainly as he's got older, probably more so, but he was certainly a firearms enthusiast.
Super quickly, but if you're enjoying this episode, you can find a longer Director's Cut edition over on our Patreon, plus over 25 other extended and bonus episodes. By becoming a patron, you also get early access to all of our other episodes, as well as podcasts, Discord access, and you can submit your own game or movie clips for future community episodes. Either way, whether you join us on Patreon or watch along on YouTube, I want to say thank you for watching, thank you for your support, and now we'll get back to the video.
Love that Terminator vision shot with the, again, one-handed AR-18. And it is an AR-18, by the way. This is a transferable machine gun under US law. Stock gets removed, so we can sort of simulate that by folding the stock up on this. We have one magazine fitted to this. He has them taped back to back. Kind of interesting that he's going up against cops with, well, essentially M16s or fully automatic AR-15s. So this is looking pretty much as it did. The 180, by the way, is the semi-auto variant, which actually this is, ironically. The one in the movie is an 18. The one I happen to have picked up today is a 180, but externally identical, except for the markings, obviously. Yeah, when you are, in theory, this precision, super strong killing machine, you can wield an assault rifle one-handed, and at that range anyway, and have the desired effect. But yeah, it's interesting that he's using this kind of, I feel bad saying this, but like Wish.com version of the M16 against M16. But of course, both 20-inch barrel, both 5.56mm, both automatic, law enforcement variant there of the AR-15, and he's got the AR-18. They're both fully automatic, similar rates of fire as well. So almost like against like, but he's got this sort of, I don't know, more industrial looking weapon with a little, the longer curved magazine that gives it a bit of a, not an AK vibe, but doesn't look as much like an AR-15.
You just touch the trigger, the beam comes on, and you put the red dot where you want the bullet to go.
The 45 Longslide with laser sighting. Shout out to Hollywood Guns, who gave me this very nice t-shirt and have reviewed this gun with that laser sight setup. We don't have that, but we do have the AMT Hardballer base pistol. We've got a picture there of the setup, and for those of you who didn't know, yes, there was a battery pack and some wires running down the sleeve of Arnold's jacket. Kind of really weird. Clearly, Cameron, being into his guns, clearly wanted that cool effect of the laser sight on a pistol. And they'd been developed, but they needed an external power supply. So this is too futuristic. This, I love that we get a reload here. Slight fumble from Arnold there on the reload. It'd be great, like today, I think we would have had a super slick, no look, no slight hesitation. At the time, almost no one watching this is going to quibble with a slight botch of a reload, or the visible flinch that Arnold has throughout the film, despite being a cyborg. Oh, that very deliberate cocking that he does there, just staring at the target. He has that look absolutely down. And big old guns like this, all of these have presence. This thing is literally just a 1911 with a huge long barrel and slide. I'm surprised. I guess the Desert Eagle was a bit too new for to be known about or available for this production. The Desert Eagle would have been perfect for Arnold, but in lieu of that, this thing with the huge bulky laser sight on top kind of out Desert Eagles the Desert Eagle, even though it's not firing, it's only firing 45, or actually the movie version might even have been in 9mm. They used to have problems running 45 blanks in these things, but yeah, so just a very long slide pistol.
Anything else?
Phased plasma rifle in the 40-watt range.
Hey, just what you see, pal.
Quick word on the phased plasma rifle in the 40-watt range. 40 watts is a light bulb.
Not a very bright one either.
I think he might have meant megawatts, but anyway, I've seen fans debating, why would he have asked for something that doesn't exist at that time? It's just a joke, guys. It's just a nod to the fact that he's this fish out of water thing from the future, and that we're dealing with weapons, and that's the kind of weapon he's used to. But yeah, we pivot from phased plasma rifle in the 40-watt range to
the Uzi 9mm.
You know your weapons, buddy.
And then, of course, Uzi 9mm. So we get 3 iconic lines for the price of 1 in this scene. And again, he's one-handing it. The benefit of movie guns here is that the Terminator gets to look like he's super strong one-handing these guns. And of course he is. And Arnold could have done all of this with real guns. No problem, I'm sure. But without the projectile going that way, you don't get the muzzle rise of a real gun firing. That's a detriment in most cases, because if you try and simulate recoil, unless it's a manually operated thing like the Dirty Harry, then you end up causing a stoppage. So you end up with nice muzzle flash, working parts, the actor has something to react to. I do still think blank firing guns are the way to go if you can in a movie, unless it's maybe sci-fi. But the downside is you don't get realistic recoil, especially something really large caliber, high pressure, whatever. It should move. It doesn't matter when you're a Terminator because there should be no recoil. The strength of the robot bits should be enough to control it.
Let's go.
Right, now something I would very much like us to have, but we don't. The Valmet M82 bullpup setup. This is just that gun. This was a real gun or configuration of one. And all they've done is add this sci-fi scope to it and left the magazine off. Or you typically see it without a magazine, which makes it automatically look more like a little plasma, or not little, but smaller than the endoskeleton rifles that we see later. A futuristic weapon that fires energy bolts, plasma bolts. But then, because this is the ragtag resistance, we get rifles contemporary to the time of the movie as well. So we have this PTR 91, I believe it is. Civilian version of the G3. I think I said PTR 91. That's a later thing. HK 91, sorry, for the 7.62 roller delayed rifle. And I'd rather have 7.62 NATO, especially if you've got armor piercing ammunition against a Terminator, than a 12 gauge shotgun.
Or would you rather have 40 watt phase plasma?
Well, obviously, as soon as I got a plasma weapon in resistance, that's pretty much what I'm using. The bullet weapons go out the window, but needs must when you're eating rats for lunch, and you may not be the best soldier on the block, so they give you a 7.62 semi-auto rifle. It's a lot better than nothing. It's a lot better than a pistol or a shotgun. And of course, they'd be around. California, maybe a bit more restrictive than the rest of the country, but it's still going to have its fair share of weapons available in the apocalyptic future of not very far away, according to the calendar. No, yeah, that weird resistance plasma machine gun thing, which I think is some sort of dressed up machine gun. I think at one point it's a Vickers gun on a vehicle. I can't remember what this is supposed to be, or if anyone's ever figured it out. Have you looked this up recently?
As far as I could tell, it's a General Dynamics RBS 80.
I mean, that's just... I don't think that's even in the script. That's a fan thing, like the Westinghouse phase plasma rifle. I'm kind of more interested in what the actual gun inside it is, because there is a real gun firing here, I believe, even though it's plasma or whatever. You can even hear it firing bullets. That's the weird thing. So it's difficult. I see spade grips there, and I don't see cases ejecting from the side. But if it was a Maxim pattern gun, you wouldn't anyway. They'd be dropping out of shot. Well, not so visible anyway, at the bottom of the gun. I'm going to have to go frame by frame on this when I get home. And I've always meant to try and get to the bottom of this. And now's the time, because the guys involved are even older than me. So we need to establish this. There is most definitely something firing. Now, it could be a propane-based system with one of those hoses that we can see there. Might be feeding propane gas to an igniter. This was done for vehicle-mounted guns. It does happen sometimes. If you've got the facility to run a hose to a gun, you can simulate fire that way, and that might be what we're seeing. Just a lash up of maybe some gun parts, maybe some that aren't. I don't know though. I might be conflating it with the one from the opening of T2, which is on a vehicle, and I think is a Vickers gun or a Maxim gun of some nature, or at least that's what people have speculated. But I guess we'll come to that at some point.
There's a shot where the car blows up, and there's just enough light behind the gun that you can it sort of accentuates some details that makes it look a bit like an M2 as well. But again, it's a silhouette in an action shot, so it could very easily be a whole number of things.
It could be an M2 that's been gutted of parts and a propane hose run down to the muzzle. Be interesting to know. The lighting of that scene and the big shroud over the barrel make it very difficult to tell. Well, there we go. I am not sufficiently old to have seen that in the cinema. In fact, I remember glimpsing bits of it when I was 8 or something, and thinking, oh, I shouldn't be watching that. And it already started. I think it was around a friend's house. So that for me, it had that kind of slightly forbidden feel. This is like an 18. It was rated 18 in my day. I love the dark tone and the seriousness of the original. Well, it's perhaps a bit cheesy in its way, but takes itself seriously. The design of that endoskeleton is just absolutely classic. Love it. And you get some interesting weapons to play with. But as gun movies go, it's up there. You know, so many quotable lines, so many well-selected guns. Yeah, it's great.
I'll be back.
Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe and let us know what other games, movies, TV shows or beyond you'd like to see on the show in the future. As always, a massive shout out goes to all of our supporters over on Patreon for supporting these episodes, for supporting EXP and helping make this project happen. Links to support Jonathan and the Royal Armouries will be in the description below, so make sure you check those out as well. And down there you'll also find links to all of EXP's social pages. But until we see each other in the next episode, I want to say thank you again for watching and we will see you real soon.
Come with me if you want to live.